Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new installment of Nintendo World Report at Night for Saturday, May 28th, 2016. I'm your host, Alexander Kalafi, doing a two-man show today with my friend and producer, one Donald Terrio.
And I caught a wild coughing a couple nights ago, so I'm trying to get it released, but somehow it learned surf, so I don't know how this is going to go.
Oh, I see. Donald always has his like cute little responses when I introduce his name. How far in advance did you figure out coughing as your
Uh,
little pun for this?
my roommate actually does that as a running joke every time I get sick. You caught a wild coughing. Let's hope it doesn't evolve into a wheezing. And here, have all your rare candies.
Let me ask you this about your roommate. Did you find your roommate because he's into video games, or did you guys accidentally stumble into each other?
Well, he originally was. I originally met him at the my local street pass group. So,
Oh, and you guys both needed an apartment.
well, he had one. I needed one.
Ooh, and he needed a roommate?
Yeah, he was living on his own, and as a student, that's pretty pricey.
Do you have your own room, or do you share it with him?
I'm in my own room actually.
That's good. Donald, as a 30-year-old man, you should have your own room.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nothing really happened in the last week, so we have a pretty interesting show. We're going to start talking about the Pokemon announcement for next week, but because I know a lot of you don't actually like Pokemon that much, we'll keep that relatively brief, which is always surprising to me because we like Pokemon so much, and I always think like, oh, everyone cares about Pokemon. But I look at the comments on these episodes that like we talk about Pokemon a lot, and not a lot of people actually like Pokemon that much who watch this show.
That's kind of surprising, but I mean, we tend to attract a more hardcore Nintendo fan, I think. So they're probably
Right.
more into Metroid, but we don't get a lot of news about Metroid nowadays.
Donald, are you like me, where even though you consider yourself in a lot of ways like one of the corest of the core Nintendo fans, all of your favorite Nintendo series, barring the JRPG ones, are like actually Nintendo's more casual friendly franchises?
For me, it's more of a like I'm pretty into Mario and the puzzle series and RPGs, but
Mm,
I'm sort of working my way through Star Fox right now. I really haven't liked a Metroid game since 2,
mhm.
but we do have Federation Force hopefully to change that this year. And yeah, and I don't really even play Animal Crossing. I tried it
Right.
once and just never got into it. So
Mm. Well, I suppose I may be alone here because my favorite Nintendo franchises are indeed Animal Crossing and Pokemon. Like that's one and well, two into one right there. Like those are the Nintendo franchises that engage me. Me actually liking 3D Mario was more recent in my Nintendo career. Me liking Zelda was like last 5 years, and I never hated it. Like it's not like Kirby where like it's just not for me, but like Zelda, like I was slow to the take. But I for someone who's not that casual of a video game fan, I like Nintendo at their most casual.
hmm.
Uh, like my favorite Mario games are New Super Mario Bros. 1 and Super Mario 3D Land, which I would say are the two most casual games in the franchise, though you could make a case for New Super Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah, I mean my favorites are 3 and 64. So I think if I get into the technical parts of it, I think I'm pretty hardcore. But I tend to shy away from the really casual stuff like the Animal Crossings of the world.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so as we were saying, we're going to talk a little bit about Pokemon. That'll be like 5, 6 minutes because there's not that much we can actually speculate other than talk about the previous news a little bit. Then we're going to talk about June because Nintendo has a lot of games coming out in June. And Donald, I look forward to you saying what the number is when we actually get to that section.
Yeah.
And we're going to close because I just played all four Uncharted games back to back to back to back. So we might spend the last 5 minutes of the show talking about that. So it'll be Pokemon 5 minutes, spring Nintendo or June Nintendo stuff for like 10, 15 minutes, and then Uncharted probably for another 5 minutes and close. A decent half-hour show. Anyways, let's talk about Pokemon. So Pokemon had their video a while ago where they straight up dropped the trailer with a little bit of fanfare beforehand that revealed the 3 starters. And the official Pokemon Japanese Twitter, as well as all the Western Twitters, as well as like pretty much every Pokemon social media account, teased further information on Pokemon Sun and Moon for June 2nd, which is Wednesday?
Thursday, this coming Thursday.
This coming Thursday, which is 10 o'clock JST, 1300 UTC, 1400 BST, 1500 CST, CEST,
and
9 Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, and then 2300 Australia, right?
Yeah, so it'll all be on the 2nd. It's going to hit right. I'm going to have two news stories going up at once, since I'll be working from home that day, and have that the downloads probably coming right after each other.
Right. Let me try to think what they could actually reveal right now, because they already revealed the starters. They already revealed. They already did an initial trailer that gives us a kind of overview, and I don't think we're going to get another super overview trailer until whatever direct type thing they do closer to E3. And we already know the date, so actually what I think it's going to be is it'll be like a 1-minute long trailer that introduces the names for both Solageo and Lunala.
The cover
mascot. The two cover mascots. I think we're gonna get like a minute long trailer for each, or like a minute long trailer total. That's my guess.
Yeah, I'm based on precedence here. I don't know if it's going to be this one or one possibly next month, where this is about the time when they would reveal what the new hooks are going to be, because I think it was about this time when X and Y was coming out that they did like, here's the fairy type and here's sky battles.
That was the reason why I remember this, is because that was at the E3. That was like the one E3 I actually went to. That was their E3 2013 trailer.
Right.
When they revealed Pokemon Ami and the fairy type properly. Because Sylveon we saw a couple weeks before. I think it was like the previous issue of Koro Koro. Okay. But that was the Pokemon Ami, and we got to see that enormous city properly for the first time. Lumiose, is it?
Yeah, the big central city, Lumiose.
Yep. And we also saw fairy type properly. And yeah. I'm busy. Come back later. But that was my mom. Yeah. So the this one's going to be the two cover mascots, I'm convinced.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be about the minimum of what they introduce, unless they do like, here's a couple of early Pokemon that you're going to catch. And,
right.
And maybe out of Japan, we get the second part of this, what seems to be, it could be a series of adventures with this person who just moved from Japan to Hawaii.
You think it's going to be a Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire thing, but much more overt?
Yeah, like I said, we got the video in North America, and then Japan they got the video, but they also got this extended commercial. So probably something along those lines, but it'll probably hew a little more toward some of the stuff they did with Ruby and Sapphire, especially since we know there's going to be a lot of surfing in this game.
Yes, I wonder what the actual mechanics could be for this game. The only thing I can think of is vehicles. They were teasing very heavily,
like cars and probably
because they were showing like the Blastoise fire truck and stuff.
Right.
We've already seen the visual engine, and they wouldn't do a trailer just devoted to the visual engine. They wouldn't do a trailer just devoted to a couple Pokemon unless it was an overview trailer, which they're probably saving for a couple weeks, which means this could be one of two things. One, it'll be a trailer devoted to the cover mascots, because we technically haven't had a full announcement of those yet, other than teasing them. Or it will be devoted to something that we just have not seen at all yet.
Yeah.
Anything else about this announcement that's that you're anticipating or expecting or interested in?
Uh, I'm hoping, hopefully, they bring in something that's going to convince some people that are on the fence because I know we're in for it, but locally, I've got some people that are kind of like, yeah, I might just sit this one out this time. So they've got some work to do to hook some people this year. I think, even if it is the 20th anniversary.
Pokemon's such a weird series because it's my favorite series of anything ever, but I think each game has been getting progressively worse than the last for like the
Mm.
last 5 or 6 years. What I like from Pokemon games, I think about Black and White, which was a fantastic game in my opinion, and I think the last truly great Pokemon game. I look at Black and White 2, which the post game actually let me down a lot more than it did a lot of people because there weren't that many surprises, which is normally why I come to a Pokemon post game even though it was super big. And then also, I thought the story like really let me down compared to how good the story was at Black and White. And the Black and White story is the best one in the franchise. And then you got X and Y, where they introduced the EXP share, which kills the difficulty in the franchise, which is something I care about, even though they're kind of already easy games. And then Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. If you told me those were the worst Pokemon games, at least as JRPGs, I would listen to that argument.
Mm. Yeah, a couple interesting things in the chat here. Anthony is suggesting that they could show off we could see what the evil organization, the obligatory Team Rocket clone for this game could be.
Fair.
Uh,
What if it was Team
we could
Rocket?
see that. Could be.
Yeah.
Or bring back Team Magma because we could always try to set off all the volcanoes that are in Hawaii.
Mm.
And Sean McCord is saying there's a theory that, admittedly, this is over my head, that Caitlyn, who was one of the Elite Four in Black and White, could be the champion. I'm not sure how.
Wait, Caitlyn?
Yeah, I was thinking more like Marshall, honestly, because maybe it's just a skin tone thing, but he seems more like to be the one that would be a champion in Hawaii.
Or who's that girl from? Is it Ruby and Sapphire? Who's like the flower girl?
Hmm.
Elite Four.
Phoebe.
Phoebe. Yes. Elite Four Phoebe. I wonder
Yeah,
if they have Phoebe Best Girl is was one of the things in Google. Anyways, what were you saying?
Yeah, because she wears the sarong type outfit, and she's got the flowers in there, and I mean, Ghost could work as a champions type if you wanted to go there.
Yes, she's actually from Mount Pyre, or no, her grandma's in Mount Pyre. She could be from Alola. Let me see. But Caitlyn doesn't look like she belongs in this game. Well, why do people have that theory?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that myself because I haven't seen it. Apparently, her name was in the. Sean is following up here. Her name was in the background, the Japanese commercial that we mentioned, and she says she has multiple castles. So they could have stuck one in Alola.
You know what they have been doing lately is in the last few Pokemon games, they've been doing callbacks to previous Pokemon games. So I would believe that.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's all we could really say for now.
Yeah, we'll probably have more on that next week when we've actually had a chance to see the things. So we'll probably do. There's probably going to be a news report next week. Let's put it that way.
And like, if there's no other news, the news report will probably be exclusively on that. Yeah. So, anyways, we can talk about that more in the future. Now, moving on to our next topic, which is on all of the Nintendo games getting put out in June. Donald, I believe you have a list, and what's that number again?
There's 7 different. Well, between Nintendo and third parties, we have 7 different games coming out on Wii U, which I think is a record outside of like November of 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of big ones coming out on the 3DS next month with Kirby, Planet Robo, etc., which Neil reviewed this week, by the way, and he loved that game. and then Zero Time Dilemma coming out at the end of the month.
So we should. Do you want to do this game by game?
Yeah. I mean, we have a big preview article up on the site for the stuff that's coming out in June on Wii U specifically, but it starts out with a late port of the Book of Unwritten Tales, or the Unwritten Tales 2, which came out last year. Adventure game from the Adventure Company is actually the publishers of it. Some early reports out of people who have gotten a copy of the retail game in Europe. Might be some issues with the port on this one, but it's also $20, so it's a pretty good price. We've got a disc version of Minecraft coming out on the 17th. So that at the very least, that should do some pretty hefty sales numbers once it actually hits the stores, and could see the Wii U show up in a few NPD charts where it shouldn't have. Then, well, we have Mighty Number 9, which.
Yeah. Oh no. I never actually watched that like anime fan like at prom trailer. I might actually do that now. Anime. Well, no, I'm not going to type in anime and get a Mighty Number 9 trailer.
Just look up Mighty Number 9 trailer. But basically, Deep Silver, who apparently the publishers of this game, put out a trailer with obligatory 90s dude as the narrator. And I got about halfway through that thing before I canceled my pre-order on Mighty Number 9.
Hold on. Yep.
I mean, I was kind of scared about this. I was kind of scared of this game from the beginning. I was able to get into the backer beta, and even though I didn't back it, and that game is rough.
Oh no. Donald, oh no.
I must confess, I had a similar reaction.
You're dashing around like a freaking moon man, and I love it. Wow.
Yeah, it's a shame that between the marketing and everything that's gone on with this game, the only thing that looks worse is that new Mega Man cartoon.
Sorry to anyone listening to this, because I'm skipping around a little bit. I'm almost done. This doesn't look good at all. I think because... Alright, I'm going to stop watching that. I don't even need to see the anime fan on prom night thing. I believe it's there. I think because Deep Silver is like still such a young major publisher, it's cute that they thought this worked. But for Mighty Number 9, the game, that shit is embarrassing. Because Mighty Number 9 by itself doesn't look that good. And when you take the trailer and you make the game look even worse through a narrator that's narrating it, like it's a commercial for like a Ben 10 toy. This, I don't know who they're trying to market it to, because kids don't want Mighty Number 9. Only Mega Man fans want Mighty Number 9, and they're doing a horrible job marketing it to Mega Man fans, not only because the game doesn't look like Mega Man, not only because the narrator is designing it for an audience that doesn't even exist, but also because the game looks like it was made for PS2. I don't know what version they're showing off, but it might be the PS2 version.
From what I understand, that is actually the PC version that they're showing off.
Deep Silver. Get a grip between this and Homefront: The Revolution. That game, Mighty Number 9, could surprise us all and actually turn out to be like the best game ever. But it doesn't look good at all.
And yeah, I'm not taking I pity the people who went in on the higher tiers of the Kickstarter for this. Then again, I know somebody who went on the higher tiers for the Vita version, which is still to be announced as to its release date.
Here's the thing. Look at a real genius. Look at Shigeru Miyamoto. Look at the people at like Naughty Dog, like we're gonna talk about, who like look at the people at like Retro Studios. The people who have actually done this shit, and the people who are revered as the greatest of all time. Look at Hideo Kojima, who people still have problems with him. Like, think about the real geniuses and think about the problems they run into, and even they do less likable stuff. Keiji Inafune is not a great man.
What's that Kamiya quote that gets posted every week? He's a great businessman, but not a great game developer.
Platinum Games, even Platinum Games, like for all their greatness, can put out Koro once in a while.
Or Turtles.
Or is Turtles not good?
It is very not good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, is there like a review thread on GAF for it?
Yeah, and the words "very disappointing" are about the nicest things I've seen about it.
Okay, I'll look into that later. But I'm rambling a bit. What I'm trying to say is there are all these geniuses, and even the most genius people in the world, the best rate you're going to get is like 70% success rate, even out of like the smartest people of all time. Keiji Inafune might be a fraud.
Yeah. Yeah. IGN went sub 5 on Turtles, by the way.
Okay.
And Don Koopman is actually in the chat here because he's one of the people that got Unwritten Tales too early. Many audio cutouts and frame rate drops. Not even worth the $20. Just get it on Steam.
Just know if you're looking for the spiritual success, I'm gonna sound like a dick when I say this. Mighty Number 9 is the successor to Mega Man, in the same way Nintendo Force is the successor to Nintendo Power.
Okay, moving on.
Here's Nintendo Force is actually like a decent publication, unlike Mighty Number 9 is probably not a decent video game, but it's the same thing. We're like, they're kind of claiming it as the spiritual successor to Mega Man, and then you look at the final product and you're like, that's not quite exactly correct.
Maybe the spiritual successor to Mega Man 8, right down to the really bad anime.
I'm gonna wait until Neil comes back, and then I'll make that prediction in front of him. Like, I don't want to do this behind anyone's back, but that's almost the way I look at this. Anyways,
Anyway.
What other games?
Okay, so after we get through Mighty Number 9, we've got a doubleheader on the 24th for North America. There's like 4 games coming out in Europe on that day. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which...
Ooh, game of the summer right there.
Yeah, and...
Oh me, oh my.
And after the Sonic account teed off on the Mighty Number 9 trailer, well, we get to tee off on Sonic with Mario and Sonic at the Olympics on Wii U.
Mm-hmm. Moving on.
And then 28th has Lego Star Wars for everything, including Wii U and 3DS, and the Wii U version of Terraria. So if you prefer your mining adventures to be in 2D instead of very blocky 3D.
And then Virtue 3 or Zero Escape 3.
Yeah, Zero Time Dilemma.
Zero Time Dilemma. That's next month also.
Yeah, and that's between Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Zero Escape 3. I'm pretty much good until August.
Let me ask you something about Zero Time Dilemma I've always been confused about. Remember like a year and a half ago, like well before this game was announced, the Zero Escape guy was like,
we don't know if this.
We don't really know if this game's gonna really exist. Doesn't this game feel like it's coming out relatively soon, based on when we heard him say that?
No, because he made those comments in 2014, and this got announced last summer. So I'm thinking I think Axis actually went to Spike Chunsoft since they developed the game, and said, "Look, we've got all these Western sales. We've got a huge fan base for this in the West. I don't know if they're co-marketed or if they're pitching in for the funding for this game or how they're doing it, but I think the main reason this game exists is because it has a huge following in North America and Europe."
But you think that I'm thinking about timing. Do you think they did this right after he probably made those statements?
I think they probably that got the ball rolling with it, but I don't think papers were signed probably until just before Anime Expo last year when they announced that this was coming.
And the fact that this game is getting like developed to completion in like 2 years, or under 2 years, probably says more about the super fast development turnaround time in Japan than anything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, the time between 999 and Virtue's Last Reward was less than 2 years, and that was with going from one platform to two new ones. So I'm thinking they've probably done something with the engine on that, but it wouldn't have taken all that long to come up with a new game on a similar level of hardware. They've already done it before.
Development in Japan is always so crazy to me because like the Yakuza games always get like developed in like a year, and I think Yakuza 5 was crazy because like they were saying like it took 2 years to get developed, and then I was looking at some quote from Hideo Kojima who was like, we're gonna model our studio after like Western developers like Media Molecule because he didn't like the way Japanese developers actually worked. How like they basically keep this like sledgehammer, like jackhammer, like development rigidity, and how it's almost not. It's not like a sweatshop, but like how everything's so like work focused in there. And I wonder if that's the reason why Japan gets games developed in like under 2 years, and then like it takes the West way longer.
But I mean that we know there's some places in Nintendo where that applies, but there's some places where it doesn't. Look at the fact that we're going to be looking at 5.5 years for between Zelda games on consoles.
When was was it the beginning of 2013 with the announcement for Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem?
Yeah, that was I think that got announced like as pretty much as soon as the ink dried on the contract to say yes, Atlas is going to develop a game for Nintendo using Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. Because
3 years sounds right then.
Yeah, but I mean, with everything that happened and the fact they went radio silent on that game for over 2 years, there was something that happened in there, and I think the fact that Atlas got acquired in the meantime probably had a lot to do with that.
Fair. Are those all the games that are coming out?
That's all the retail stuff that we know of. There's probably going to be plenty of download stuff, and well, there's a certain trade show that's going to be happening during there. So God knows there's going to be there may be something that comes out of that.
Kirby's next week.
Yeah, Kirby is 2 weeks from yesterday.
Okay, so Kirby's also a June game. Are you looking forward to that?
Yep. The only reason I haven't pre-ordered it yet because I'm trying to see if I can snag a deal on it right when it comes out. But if not, I'll bite the bullet and get it full price.
Yeah. In my opinion, the two best Kirby games before this are Return to Dreamland and the Triple Deluxe. Like those are the two Kirby games that probably appealed most to me in that series because I'm not a Kirby fan by trade, which I have nothing against the series. It's just like, you ever play it? You probably see plenty of games where like, I get that people like this. I get why people like this, but this game is made for everyone but me.
Yeah. I think that's me with most Metroid games, actually.
I would say that's me with every Metroid game. Well, no, the GBA ones were fantastic, but other than that, like even Super Metroid, like I respect it, but I just can't. I think that's about it for the preview.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very busy June. Good God, I'm home all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so we can spend a couple minutes talking about this last thing. I do this thing like every year or so. I try to do this thing where one game series or two that I've always neglected, I go back to it and just play through the entire series just so I can know what the big fuss was about. And it's kind of like treating games as art and then like exposing myself to franchises that are renowned, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, I played the Uncharted games back to back to back to back. 1 followed by 2 followed by 3 followed by 4, so I could see the complete progression of the series in one stretch. Yes, Donald.
So I'm guessing you're passing on Golden Abyss?
I've played Golden Abyss.
Okay.
Golden Abyss was actually like an okay game. I think it got more shit than it deserved, but I also think that game was very similar to Uncharted 1, which is a game that has not aged well at all. Uncharted 1 is crazy because you can tell it's the first game they made since the Jak and Daxter series, because if you look at some of Nathan Drake's animations and some of the ways he talks, it actually feels like more of a half step from Jak and Daxter than you think. If you look at video from Uncharted 1, it has that same Naughty Dog goofiness from their previous two series, much more than you would actually think, especially fresh off of Last of Us and now Uncharted 4 with its super strict narrative. So Uncharted 1, you can definitely see like what they were doing to the action-adventure genre, how they were making like a proper Indiana Jones game, but the shooting wasn't good. There were too many open fire fights, and jungle was pretty much the one setting for the entire game. And then also the set pieces that Uncharted later became known for, they weren't really there in strides, and then also it has the most bare bones story in the entire series. It's weird to think of a game that came out in 2007 having age, but like given all the Uncharted games that came after it and all the ways that genre has been improved upon since the inception of Uncharted, that game, like, it's only 5-6 hours long, but it aged surprisingly poorly. Okay, Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 is just as big as an improvement as everyone says it is. They make the set pieces better, they make the shooting better, they make the story way better. You can tell that Uncharted 2 did as much for this genre as people claimed it did back in 2009. Uncharted 2 also has not aged as well as people think it has, because people forget how bad the shooting is in the first three Uncharted games. Have you ever played the Uncharted games?
I haven't. The only one I have access to is 3.
You have a PS3 though, right?
Yeah.
Those games are super cheap. I recommend you actually picking them up if you can at some point. But anyways, Uncharted 2, some really good set pieces. It's Lazarevich is a fantastic villain, but the gunfights actually get super awful towards the end of that game, where it just ends up being boring firefight after boring firefight after boring firefight. But it's still an amazing half step over Uncharted 1, where the scenery keeps changing, the story's way better, the characters are way better, etc., etc.
Yeah, and what you mentioned with the going from Jak to Uncharted, friend of the show and my NFR colleague Austin in the chat room is saying that Infamous 1 is sort of a similar thing with Sly Cooper 3.
Where you can like actually see like some weird like PS2 like animations on the characters. And I totally agree with that. And then Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3, you can still see hints of that before it totally gets erased in Uncharted 4 and Last of Us. But it's very interesting to see, like, this was Naughty Dog's first foray into like super serious gameplay. But in reality, you can look from Crash Bandicoot 1 to Uncharted 4 and see this slow trending graph of like slowly but surely getting away from cartoony gameplay and slowly but surely getting into super realistic gameplay.
Yeah, and question from the chat room here: would you say that the Uncharted series made the biggest stride in gameplay as it did in graphics? Sounds like you'd be saying yes to that.
I would say Uncharted is a very... Are they talking about in comparison to the series itself or just as games?
It sounds like as just within the series itself.
Okay. Well, I'll answer both. The games get slowly better, because I'll just Uncharted 3 briefly. People give Uncharted 3 shit because it was a half step from 2 and it wasn't as enormous of a step as 2 was from 1. But if you play 1, 2, 3 back to back, you will realize that Uncharted 3 is actually a much better game than Uncharted 2. The set pieces are better, the game looks much better, the game feels much better, the shooting is actually better, at least after a series of patches. And most importantly, while Uncharted 2 had a bunch of super crappy, super open like shooting sequences, Uncharted 3 only has like shorter shooter sequences back to back to back to back. Like, it's a lot more conscious of the player's time. And I would say the gameplay itself, especially like the climbing gameplay, does see big strides from game to game to game to game. Now, as a video game in general, what Uncharted did for video games is that it was, in my opinion, the greatest leap, Naughty Dog's Uncharted and The Last of Us games are the greatest fusion of story and gameplay working in tandem. I think outside of like JRPGs, which don't even count because like they're doing their own thing. I'm talking about cinematic story and gameplay working together. No one does it like Uncharted and Last of Us. They're the only games that do that. And then that brings us to Uncharted 4, which plays nothing and looks nothing and feels nothing and is nothing story-wise like the previous 3 games. Because while the previous 3 games had a relatively bare-bones story and were just an excuse for set pieces, Uncharted 4 doesn't actually have that many set pieces. The shooting is actually good now. The shooting plays like a combination, I'd say, of The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5. The stealth is very much Last of Us. Nathan Drake now handles like a third-person open-world game character, which is weird because like there are a lot. If anyone here's played Killzone Shadowfall, in the same way that it was like linear areas, but it was kind of half open world at the same time, that's what Uncharted 4 is, where it's a series of set areas that you have to get from point A to point B, and it's mostly linear, but you can do some exploration along the way, and it's possible to go in wrong directions. Like it's much more expansive. They got vehicles, which is great. It's the exploration, you feel more like an actual Indiana Jones-ass explorer along the way. The story actually characterizes Sam and Nathan Drake. Sam's his brother who gets introduced in that game, who's played by Troy Baker. Making Nathan Drake a human and like having the story discuss whether Nathan Drake is actually kind of an asshole is a surprisingly amazing thing. And it's something only modern Naughty Dog is capable of, especially if you look at his relationship with Sully and with his now wife Elena. There are some very incredible story moments, including a very now famous Easter egg that happens in that game, which is exactly as crazy as it sounds. The only problem with that game, and it's such a huge leap above Uncharted 1, 2, 3 in every form. It is the best Uncharted game by far. Neil Druckmann does not know how to keep his social politics out of video games. And I don't mind that, because all art is in itself social and political. And I'm not going to talk about it because it involves very specific characters and the ending of the game and some artistic decisions he and Naughty Dog make. But it always bothers me when a game developer makes decisions and you can tell, and it like takes you out of it and you're like, he did this because I know the kind of person Neil Druckmann is, and I know why he characterized this character in that way, and it's kind of heavy-handed, and that in itself bothers me because I paid $60 for entertainment. If anyone is like watching this and wants to know exactly what I'm talking about, I can DM you and we can actually have like a long conversation about it because I like talking about this game. But the game makes some story choices towards the end and with 2 specific characters that bother me. Otherwise, Uncharted 4 is an enormous leap over 1, 2, and 3. I am rambling though, so we should end the show. Anything else?
Just one last chat room question here. Does it bother you that that seems like Naughty Dog is going down this road going forward? They're not going to go back to things like Jak and Daxter?
When they got rid of Amy Hennig, they left a lot of Naughty Dog behind. Here's the thing. The Last of Us is the best Naughty Dog game ever. It's in my opinion, but The Last of Us was an important game for video games that I think even Uncharted 2 didn't come close to. I think that game is not. Some people on like 4chan and not NeoGAF, but like specifically 4chan and some parts of Twitter and stuff will be like, Last of Us wasn't that good. Last of Us was that good. I think the things it did for like realistic cinematic gameplay were so big, and it struck a chord probably with the people at Naughty Dog as well as critics as well as the audience all at the same time, that I don't think Naughty Dog is going to go back. I think Naughty Dog has been making a progression from Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot gets like 20% more realistic when it goes into Jak and Daxter territory. Jak and Daxter to Uncharted 1 gets like another 30% more realistic. Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2 gets like 50% more realistic. Uncharted 2 to Last of Us gets like 100% more realistic. And then Uncharted 4 just hangs on to that. I think this is where Naughty Dog is at now. I don't think it's going anywhere. And what I think Naughty Dog is going to be doing for the next 10 years is going to be exactly like The Last of Us, exactly like Uncharted 4, except it's going to go further in that direction. And I bet the problems I have with Uncharted 4 are going to get worse. I'm absolutely convinced. Donald, did you break up for a second?
I thought you froze and I completely dropped off the call for a moment.
Okay, people in chat, were you able to hear me talk?
It went to a cut. I kind of did a half outro. Rate the video and audio quality. 1 star.
What happened is there's like a 40-second delay. Can people tell us what's up?
Yeah, they what I saw was you froze and then it went to the logo and then we're back.
Okay, so I froze. Is that what people in the chat are saying?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, here's what I'm gonna say. Naughty Dog has been going in this direction for a very long time because of what The Last of Us was to video games and because of the significant impact it made probably to Naughty Dog, but also definitely to critics and definitely the Naughty Dog audience. I don't think they're ever going to go back, and I think it's going to get more significant. And the things the personal identity stuff Neil Druckmann inserted into Uncharted 4 and to a lesser extent in The Last of Us, that's also going to get worse with time, which makes me think I'm probably not going to play whatever The Last of Us 2 is. But we got to end the show. So if anyone wants to ask me about like Uncharted 4 or wants to talk about Uncharted 4 and has like spoiler shit, DM me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at CULAFIA. Donald is on Twitter at DonaldMick, DONALDMICK. You can also find him at NFR Podcast, Nintendo Free Radio. That's our show. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.